Hi friends, welcome to the channel JIB and CIB Made Simple. In this particular video, we are going to cover our IIBF MSME memory based question along with explanation for the examination which held on 14th February 2026. Through this video, you will be able to see what type of question appeared in the examination, and I will explain each and every option, why some option is correct, why some option is wrong, so that any link has fulfilled the inclusion and financial deepening target as recommended by the PM Task Force on MSME. So let's see the question. A scheduled commercial bank reported annual MSME lending data. So which of the following scenario would signify a failure to meet the specific financial deepening and inclusion mandate as recommended by the PM Task Force? So the question revolves around the PM Task Force. So option they have given that bank achieved a 22% year-on-year growth in total credit to the MSE sector, but only 55% of those advances were directed toward micro side enterprise. Option B says that bank increases total credit to micro enterprise by 25% year on year, but only saw 8% increase in the total number of unique micro enterprise account. Option C says that bank meet its 7.5% PSL sub target for micro enterprise, but failed to establish a specialized MSE branch. D says that bank redirected its PSL shortfall into a dedicated fund managed by SIDBI to ensure the capital eventually reach the micro segment. So these are the four options that they have provided. So this question check whether the bank has fulfilled the inclusion and financial deepening target which is recommended by the PM Task Force on MSME and adopted by RBI. Let's have a look. So basically, the task force says that bank must ensure two things every day. The first thing is increasing total credit to be increased to MSE. Total credit increase to MSE by 20%. Right. Second thing, increasing number of micro enterprise account. Right. Increasing number of micro enterprise account by 10%. Think of it like this. Whenever I say this credit growth, so credit growth means what? Credit growth means giving more loan amount. Two words here you will see. The first word is the credit growth. Credit growth simply means, you are giving more loan. Right. That is called credit growth. And financial deepening. Second point is, deepening. So when I say financial deepening, it means giving loan to more number of borrower. That is how financial deepening will happen. So credit growth means more loan and financial deepening means more number of borrower. So now let's see what they have given in the option. Option number A says that bank achieve a 22% year-on-year growth. Yes, but only 55% of. So if you look at the option number A, yes, this is a failure. This is a clear case of, failure, right? But this relate to the credit allocation. Option number A, it relate to what? It relate to credit allocation. It is not about financial deepening, right? So this question is specifically about, financial deepening. Two things are there, right? First thing is the financial deepening. Second thing is the credit growth. Yes, credit growth is made by option number A, but not financial deepening. If you look at the option number B, what does it say? So option number B says that, that a bank increases total credit to micro enterprise by 25% year on year, but only saw 8% increase in total number of unique micro enterprise account. So you can think of this like this. I told you now, credit growth. What is the meaning of the term credit growth? Credit growth means you are giving more loan amount. It means more loan amount, right? And when I say deepening, financial deepening specifically, so it means, giving loan to more number of borrower. Giving loan to more number of borrower. So here what happened, in the option number B, bank increase loan amount to micro enterprise by 25% year on year. This is a good. Target was 20%. How much was the target? Target was at 20% as per the task force. Task force says that bank ensure two things every year, that they have to increase the total credit to MSE. Credit to MSE has to increase by 20%. Target was 20% and here they have increased by 25%. So credit growth target has been met. And the second thing that this task force tell, that increase the number of micro enterprise account. So they have to increase the number of micro enterprise account by 10%. Now let's see whether they have done or not. So in the second case, the number of micro enterprise account increased by only 8%. The target was 10%. So the bank failed here. This means bank give more money but to the same old customer, instead of including more new micro enterprise. So option number B is the correct one. What are the question? That which option would signify a failure to meet the criteria? Yes, option number B is the correct one. Let's see the option number C. Option number C says, bank meet its 7.5% PSL sub target for MSE, but failed to establish a specialized MSE branch. See, this question about a specialized MSE branch. A specialized MSE branch are recommended, but the key measurable inclusion metric is what? The key measurable inclusion matrix is 10% growth in account. That has to be done. Missing a branch is not the main financial deepening failure. What about option D? Putting PSL shortfall into a dedicated fund managed by SIDBI. So actually it is not a failure. It is a procedure to ensure money still reaches MSME. So failure is option number B. That is the failure. So how to remember it? So there is a memory trick that I can give you to remember this concept. Just remember this 20-10 rule. Right. So what does it mean? So 20-10 rule states that 20% money, it goes to 10% people. 20% money, 10% people. So what I mean? So 20% means 20% growth, right, in loan amount per year. That is 20%. Significance of 20%. And 10% means 10% growth in number of account. Right. That's the significance of 20-10. So remember, money grow by 20%, people cover grow by 10%. So remember, we have just talked about Financial Action Prime Minister Task Force, which says financial deepening mission. Let me tell you about certificate course on MSME. If you are looking for a one single solution for your entire MSME subject, you can check out our certification course. In this course, you get a folder for unit-wise theory and MCQ. There are 97 files, previous year questions 6 files, quick revision PDF 4 file. Inside the unit-wise theory and MCQ PDF, we have arranged the entire content into F5, 6 modules are there, A, B, C, D, E, F. Inside each module, you get unit-wise content like unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. Inside it, unit-wise content, you will get separate theory PDF, separate MCQ PDF. All these things are downloadable. In addition to that, we provide you previous year question. In the folder of previous year, you will be able to see what type of question have appeared in the recent examination starting from February 2025 and with proper explanation. In addition to that, we provide you quick revision PDF for last minute revision. So all these things you can get at very nominal fee in the description section of the video. You can. Now friends, let's come back to our question. The next question that we have is the SL Kapoor committee, right? So basically the SL Kapoor committee advocated that they recommended one major shift for small businesses, that is called protection to promotion. So which of the following regulatory action best exemplify the committee theoretical framework for enhancing the global competitiveness of the SSC, that small scale enterprise? Option number A, mandating that 20% of the bank total credit be reserved exclusively for manufacturing of item listed under the reserved categories for SSI. Option number B, implementing a reconstruction fund at the state level to ensure that even non-viable sick unit are shielded from market exit. Option number C, transitioning from mandatory physical inspection to a self-certification regime to dismantle the inspector Raj. Option number D, restricting the definition of sector to SSI to ensure that service-related business do not dilute the credit available to the traditional manufacturing. So now, let me explain what this SL Kapoor committee was all about. See, this recommended one major shift for the business, that they say that you have to stop the overprotecting. You have to stop the overprotecting, right? And start promoting them. So don't overprotect the small scale industry, start promoting them. Why? Because too many rules, too many inspection, too many restriction were stopping a small industry from becoming the globally competitive. So that was the main idea. Now let's come back to the question. Let's see option number A. It says that you have to reserve the 20% credit, 20% credit to be reserved credit for reserved category, right, for SSI. What do you think? Actually, if you reserve this is called protectionism. This is called protectionism, right? This is the exact opposite of what the committee suggested. Committee push for what? Global competitiveness, right? Committee push for global competitiveness. It did not push for protectionism, right? So Kapoor committee wanted phasing out of reservation, not adding new one. So option A is incorrect. What about B? B says restructuring fund for all the sick unit, right? So for all sick unit. Actually, the committee says that only potential viable unit should be revived. So the key word is only potential viable unit should be revived, not here non-viable unit survive is so if you are supporting the non-viable unit survival, obviously it is a kind of protectionism. So this particular committee clearly phase out that. So option number B is also wrong. Option number C, if you look at, so option number C says that let me highlight it. It says that shifting from mandatory physical inspection to self certification, right? That is what option number C say. Yes, let me explain. So if you look at the option number C, what does it say? That that this directly remove the biggest burden on the small industry, that is called Inspector Raj, right? So what is the inspector? What is the meaning of Inspector Raj? It means too many inspectors are there, right? Too many visits are happening, right? Too many harassments, large count of harassment are there, high compliance time, high cost. So if you allow self certification, right, the government basically tell the entrepreneur that we trust you, save your time, save your money, focus on production and global competitiveness. Focus on two things: focus on production and competitiveness, right? So this is exactly the promotion mindset, and the promotion mindset was recommended by the Kapoor committee. Please remember, this is called promotion mindset, and this was recommended by the Kapoor committee, right? So if you look at the option number C, yes, option number C is the best example for the committee theoretical framework. What about option number D? D says restrict definition only to SSI. It says that restricting the definition to SSI and exclude services, right? So it is wrong again, because committee recommended changing SSI to SSE, right? Committee what is recommended? That SSI name should be changed to SSE. What is SSE? That is called a small scale enterprise, right? To include services. So why was they recommended this change? So that services could be included, right? Because services were becoming globally competitive, right? Earlier there was only goods. Now to include services, they suggested that instead of industry, you replace this word industry with enterprise. So remember, what we learned, the correct answer is option number C. So the memory trick is that, so there are 3 P's of Kapoor. Please remember, 3 P's of Kapoor committee. So what are the 3 P's? Please remember it like this. The first P is that protection. There should be no protection, right? Second thing is promotion. Yes, you need to promote them. Third thing is paperwork reduction, right? Obviously, because of this committee report, paperwork has been reduced. That's called self-certification. So if you see an option reducing inspection, bureaucracy or reservation, that is promotion, and that is correct. So Kapoor committee said that stop protecting, start promoting. Global competitiveness need less regulation, less inspection, lower cost. They supported self-certification to remove the Inspector Raj. And there was a shift from SSI to SSE, right? So that is a very important point. And only viable SIC unit should be supported, not non-viable one. I hope till now everything is crystal clear. Now let's shift our focus to the next question that we have. Very good question based on JDD. So this question is about the ZED. But you know what is ZED scheme? Zero defect, zero effect scheme, right? And how a micro enterprise can climb up from bronze level to the diamond level certification. Let's have a look. See, basically this question revolves around the micro enterprise, which is specializing in precision component. They aim to transition from bronze to diamond level certification under the ZED scheme to integrate into the global aerospace value chain. So basically you have to tell me, based on the theoretical framework provided, which shift in operational strategy is most critical for achieving this advancement. So option they have given that moving from self-declaration model to acquiring basic ISO 9001 and BIS product certification to ensure standard conformity. Option number B, implementing sustainable development practices by adopting EcoMark and ISO 15001 to focus primarily on zero effect pillar of the scheme. Option C, shifting from basic quality assurance to the rigorous application of the lean manufacturing tool like BSM, Kanban, and total productive maintenance. Option number D, establishing an in-house skill center and design capability to transition directly into world-class zero defect planning. So let's understand the basic. So this question is all about ZED scheme. That's called zero defect, zero effect. So let's understand the basic. First of all, the keyword they have mentioned is the bronze. You know what is a bronze? So bronze means basic self-check, right? Silver. What is the meaning of silver? Silver means basic standards like ISO, like BIS. Then we have the gold. Gold means sustainability scheme. And then we have the diamond. Diamond means lean manufacturing tool. And after that, after diamond, what we have? After diamond we have the platinum, right? Platinum. In the platinum it means world class design, right? It means world class design and innovation. Now the enterprise want to jump from bronze to diamond. As you can see, they want to jump from, earlier they are in the bronze, they want to jump from bronze to diamond level, which is a big jump. So diamond level is all about, I told you, diamond level is all about lean manufacturing, right? Like, so can you give me some example of lean manufacturing? You might have heard the name of 5S technique. You might have heard of VSM. That's called, value stream mapping. Kanban, right? Kanban technique. Then TPM, total productive maintenance. So, what are the uses of these tools? These are the tools which are used inside the, lean manufacturing practices. So these are the tools. They help reduce the waste. So waste get reduced, delays get reduced, defect get reduced, and process flow get improved. This is exactly what global aerospace company demand. So if you look at the option number A says that ISO 9001 and BIS product. Actually, this is needed for silver level. If it had to transition to silver level, then it was required, right? But not enough for aerospace grade excellence. What about B? It says about eco marks and ISO 15001. So again, it belongs to the gold level, right? Where the focus is on energy efficiency and the environment. At gold level, our main focus is the energy efficiency as well as the environment. So B is not the correct answer. Option number C says that, yes, C I think is correct, right? C is the correct answer because it says that, from basic quality assurance to the lean manufacturing, with some tools have been given. Yes. What about option D? D says, skill center and design capability to do world class zero defect. So that's called, platinum level. So remember, the basic thing is that you can just, I'm giving you a memory trick to remember it, right? So there is a memory trick you can use to remember this thing. Basic standard give diamond performance. Remember this line. Basic standard give diamond performance. So basic means bronze. Standard means silver. Green, G for green. Green or sustainability, right? That is gold. Diamond performance, like lean tool. So lean tool means what? Diamond. And then, performance, platinum per innovation, right? So bronze, basic self check. Silver, ISO BSI standard. Then gold, sustainability and energy. Let me show you. Remember this very, very important line, right? And diamond is a lean manufacturing tool. Now question number 3 on your screen. So basically this, to understand this question is all about, incipient sickness to sickness. So according to the life cycle of the industrial sickness and symptom outlined by MSME regulatory framework, which of the following scenario describe a unit that transition from incipient sickness to sickness? So option they have given, basically a textile unit experiencing a 20% drop in the capacity utilization due to sudden shift in consumer preference, leading to inventory pile up in the warehouse. B says a precision engineering firm that has reported deteriorating current ratio for 2 quarters and has begun delaying the payment of a staff provident fund. C, manufacturing plant that has consistently overdrawn its cash credit limit and has failed to service its interest obligation for a period exceeding 90 days. D, a family-run MSME where high employee turnover and management conflict have led to frequent plant breakdown due to poor maintenance schedule. So 2 words are there. The first word is the, let me highlight it, incipient sickness. Second word is sickness. So whenever I say this word, let me just write it. Incipient sickness. This is called, early trouble stage. So this is when the business is not showing sign of weakness, but has not yet defaulted. Sorry, business is showing the sign of weakness, but has not defaulted yet. So for some example, suppose your current ratio is decreasing, right? Suppose your inventory is piling up. Suppose your capacity is useless. Then comes sickness. Sickness means what? Formal stage. So a unit becomes sick when it failed to meet the financial obligation. So suppose there is a financial obligation and the unit failed to meet it, then it becomes sick. So the key regulatory trigger is failure to repay the principal. Suppose it failed to repay the principal or failure to repay the interest for more than 90 days. So beyond the 90 days, they can't become what? Beyond the 90 days, they can't become NPA. So this is the official moment the enterprise is treated like a sick. Now let's look at the option. Option number A says that 20% drop in capacity utilization plus inventory piling up. See, these are the operational symptom. If you look at them in detail, so these are the operational symptom, right? These indicate incipient sickness, but not the full sickness. And the question is about transition from incipient to sickness. So option A is incorrect. B says, bad current ratios. You can see deteriorating current ratios they have mentioned. And the second thing they have mentioned is, 90-day default limit. These are the classic early warning signal. The unit is struggling but has not crossed the 90-day default limit, right? So still in incipient stage. What about option C? Option C suggests that, the unit is overdrawing cash credit limit, drawing more than what is the limit, and also it has failed to service its interest obligation. Yes, this exactly fit the regulatory definition of a sick unit, right? So option C is the correct answer. What about D? D says, that high turnover. Let me highlight it. It says, high turnover, high employee turnover. Then we have conflict, management conflict is there, plus frequent plant breakdown. So these are the managerial or HR symptom, right? You can call them managerial or HR symptom. They can cause sickness, but by themselves they do not indicate the unit has become sick. So remember the rule: if a due remain unpaid for 90 days, the problem is stick. Suppose the due is there and it remain unpaid for how much? 90 days, right? So enterprise becomes sick. So 90-day NPA sick unit. Please remember it. Now we have the next question. Very good question it is. Yes. So what does it say? In 2016, the transition from original TUFS framework to the amended TUFX marked a significant shift in the government fiscal strategy. So you have to tell me, you have to look at the basic theoretical objective, key feature provided. Which of the following base describe the strategic intent moving to both the timely access and transaction cost economics. Let's understand these two quickly. So what is this timely access? So RBI, for MSME loan, what RBI guidelines say? That once the loan is sanctioned, once you sanction the loan, it must be disbursed. It must be disbursed within 30 days. That is what RBI say for MSME loan. After sanctioning, you have to disburse within 30 days. Why? Because if disbursement is delayed, the enterprise loses order. Obviously, enterprise will lose the order, right? And enterprise will face the penalties. And obviously, they will miss the opportunity, especially in the case of export. And the second guideline about the TCE. What is TCE? Transaction cost economics. It says that cost will increase when process is slow. Cost will increase when enforcement is delayed. Cost will increase when one party behave inefficiently, right? And the beneficiary faces uncertainty after the agreement. So once the deal or the loan sanction is done, the process should move smoothly, right? So if suppose disbursement takes time, opportunity cost rises, monitoring cost rises, enforcement cost rises, efficiency collapse. Now let's look at the option. Option number A says that asking for document after 15 days. They have mentioned after 15 days. Yes, irritating and inefficient, but not a specific violation of the sanction and disbursement timeline. So not enough to qualify under TCE as an enforcement failure. So A is wrong. What about option number B? It says rejecting on 45th day. 45th day rejected. Actually, this violate the 30-day decision deadline, but the question demand a case that violate both the timely access as well as the TCE. So rejection does not involve enforcement cost in the same way as post-sanction delay. So option C fit better. Let's look at option number C. It says sanction loan in 25 days, but take an additional 40 days to disburse the fund into enterprise account. Yes, this is the clear violation. So you can see total delay in disbursement is 40 days. Acceptable limit is how much? 30 days. Right? Clear violation of the RBI time bound rule. And since the bank delay after sanctioning the loan, the enforcement failure raises the transaction cost. So it perfectly matches. So C is the clear violation. What about D? D says that limiting working capital to 15% of the turnover. This is linked to the information asymmetry, not to timeline or TCE. So memory line. So how you can remember these two things? So remember, as for sanction, as for stopwatch. So timely access, remember 30 days. After sanctioning within 30 days, they have to disburse. Right. And then if there is delay after agreement, if suppose there is a delay after what? After agreement, then it cause enforcement cost. Obviously enforcement cost will be there, and it will cause the bad economics. So RBI say disbursement must happen within 30 days after sanction. Delay disbursement, violation of timely access. This is the very important point to remember. Now have a look at the next question. So friends, this question is about DPG. DPG is called deferred payment guarantee, right? So MSME utilizes the DPG to acquire specialized machinery under unit utilizes a DPG to acquire specialized machinery under the TUFS scheme. So from the perspective of the bank balance sheet and trade substitution principle, which of the following statement most accurately describe the status of this transaction? Option number A, the bank record the full value of the machinery as an asset immediately upon delivery of the good to the MSME. Option number B, bank treat the transaction as a contingent liability because it does not involve an immediate cash outflow. Option number C, the DPG act like a fund-based credit line because the bank pay the supplier the full amount upfront. And option number D, the credit substitution principle implies that the supplier retain the risk of MSME default while the bank act only as payment facilitator or immediate. So first of all, this question revolve around the DPG. Let's understand the basic concept behind the DPG. That's called deferred payment guarantee, right? So remember, it is a non-fund based. Remember, it is a non-fund based credit facility. What does that mean? So that means bank does not give money to the MSME upfront. See, since it is a non-fund based, so bank do not give money to MSME, no money, right? Rather, the bank gives a guarantee. What bank give? Bank give a guarantee, right? The bank say if the MSME fail to pay installment, the bank will pay you. So the bank is not paying immediately, but it's checking on the liability. So basically option number A says that you can show the machinery as a loan asset, but actually this happened only in the case of term loan. This happened in the case of term loan, while the bank actually give money where you show the machinery as an asset. But what happened in the case of DPG? No money is disbursed, right? There is no disbursement, right? So only a guarantee is given, right? Only a guarantee is given. So no loan asset is created at this stage. Option number A is wrong. What about option number B says the bank treat this transaction as a contingent liability? Exactly. Yes, B is the correct one. Because no cash goes out now, but there is a possible future obligation. Yes, future obligation is there also. If MSME default, the bank must pay. So the contingent liability become real. This contingent liability become real if MSME default. Right. What about option C? The DPG treating DPG as a fund-based facility. No, that's wrong. Right. Because fund-based means bank give money leave the bank account, bank create a loan asset, right? So that is the meaning of fund-based. Fund-based means bank give money leave the bank account. So DPG is exactly opposite of that. No cash outflow, only a guarantee. It is not a non-fund based. And option number D, supplier keep the risk. Here we have seen they have mentioned that supplier retain the risk. Actually, what happened in the case of DPG? This is exactly opposite of what DPG does. The supplier transfer the buyer risk onto the bank. So supplier transfer the MSME risk to the bank. This is called credit substitution, right? So supplier no longer worry about MSME default. Supplier trust the bank guarantee. Bank become responsible if MSME fail. So the correct answer is B. So you can remember it like this. There is a mnemonic you can use. D means don't pay now. D means don't pay now. P means possible future liability. Possible future liability. And G means what? G means guarantee replaces the borrower risk. Guarantee replaces the borrower risk, right? So whenever you see no money given now, bank take future payment responsibility. It is always a contingent liability. Friends, we have some more question available which we will discuss in our paid course. If you want to get access to those questions, you can enroll in our MSME certification program course. For more detail, you can WhatsApp me on this particular number. All this